Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for our community of practice meeting as we're kind of debriefing and thinking through the wonderful content that Juliet shared last week or 2 weeks ago around improvement science, aim statements, and driver diagrams. I am going to do a quick kind of positioning for us, and then I'll turn it over to Juliet. So let me just share screen. Am I able to share screen? Why am I not seeing this button? There it is. It's green, probably because it stood out too much. Okay. All right. So in our community of practice today, we are going to get a quick content refresh on the 90 minutes of high octane information that we got around improvement science. Then I just have a few guiding questions for folks. We'll go into breakouts with smaller groups, maybe 5 or so, and then come back and share together thoughts, questions that we have, kind of how are we doing? And then we'll kind of wrap up. So just to orient us, this is our, leadership exchange process wheel. We've already been through 3 modules of the process. We've identified this is the big question, this is the big issue that I want to work on. We have then thought about that in the ecosystem of all of our campus and community stakeholders, who is really critical to be a part of this process as we think about how we can improve the system, the way we work together to support our students. And then we moved improvement science earlier into our learning journey so that we could really start honing in, narrowing in on the focus of the big idea. Now, this is hopefully something that you do in partnership with your campus stakeholders, really refining that aim statement, because it is probably going to be the key. If you ran into someone on an elevator and you had to tell them about your capstone project, like this is going to be your statement, the thing that you're trying to do. And so you'll want to make sure that all of your partners are on board and everyone is in agreement around what it is and what, that SMART goal kind of looks like. So this is where we are today. We'll obviously be moving forward and continuing our way around the process wheel as we go. Just some big questions to be thinking about as this is what we'll kind of revisit when we go into our small groups. But what is, can you articulate the big issue you're working on? Can you articulate and identify those key stakeholders and your partners? What is your group's aim? And then what are those big drivers or those levers of change that you can pull on as you think about how do I improve this issue? Okay, so I am going to stop sharing, and any questions or thoughts before I pass it over for our refresh? Okay, awesome. All right, Juliet, let me make sure you can share. Sorry if I didn't do that. Okay, you should be able to share now.
All right. Hi, everybody. Just gonna try and share. It's not letting me.
Oh, really? Let me make a co-host. I clicked yes again.
I just feel like after all these years, I should be better at this than I am.
I kind of have you in here twice, Juliet. You're like there's 2 participants named Juliet Price. It's not working for you?
It's not, but let me.
You want to shoot it to me in an email?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Here it is. It's coming.
Okay.
Sorry about that. All right, let's see. There we go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Sorry about that. I mostly wanted to do just a quick refresh, as Lily was saying, on the two core concepts. I'm also happy, obviously, if you've had other thoughts about improvement science or questions since we did the first session together. Happy to take those before we go into our smaller groups, and then I'll reflect all together. But maybe just a quick refresher on the two big tools that we talked about. The first being aim statements, and hopefully you've had a chance to think these through. I think the biggest piece here is thinking about how do you answer this very first question of improvement about what we are trying to accomplish. Maybe some of you took me up on my little challenge of being in some other committee meetings or project meetings last week or the week before and asking the broader group that was around the table, what are we trying to accomplish, just to see if everybody was on the same page. The biggest thing that I wanted to remind everybody to hit here is having all of the components of the aim statement in your final sentence here. Having a really clear operational definition. I was just reminded of this today for another project that we're doing, where we realized that multiple stakeholders were defining time to admissions decision very differently. So reminding yourselves that you want that really clear operational definition. If you sort of forget or don't know if it's clear enough, the rule of thumb I always use is, if you sent this to somebody's grandmother, who certainly does not work in higher education, could they understand what it is you're trying to do, right? That's really as clear as we want to get it. Make sure you're staying away from jargon. I'm sure for those of you who are going to be brave enough to share today some drafts or some thoughts, I'm sure we're going to see jargon, and that's okay. Just get yourselves in the habit of really coming away from that. For whom, really important, your target population. Who is this for? Is it for all students on campus? Is it for incoming freshmen, first time college, whatever that population is, you really want to make sure you have that very clear. By how much? As a reminder, it's really not thoughtful to just say you want to get to 100%. We all want 100% of students to success. We all want them to all graduate, to all enroll. We get that. We're not questioning your overall intention. I just want you to think about what is actually something that you think is feasible. It's much more exciting to be part of a group that actually meets their goals than to say, well, we're going to get to 100%. And even if you make tremendous progress over a few years, you technically didn't meet your goal. So you don't set yourself up for disappointment with. And then obviously by when, that time frame of when you expect these changes to happen is really important. That's going to make sure you're really targeting and being realistic again about the how much. I gave you these examples the last couple times. We can come back to these examples or flash them up on the screen as needed, just to give you guys some context. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is, like, I know sometimes I show these and they feel very, perfectionist. They feel like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And then you go back and you start working on them. These always take a long time, folks. These are not, perfect out of the get-go, out of the gate. They do take refinement, which is part of what we're going to be working on today, of course, is getting some feedback, thinking through it, having somebody else take a different lens. One of the big things about operational definition is, for example, before we said in-state students enrolling at two-year institutions who then transfer, we just said transfer. We just said transfer. We just said students who transfer. And it was only because we workshopped this with people where they started saying, is that reverse transfer? And what about students who started earning college credit in high school, right? So it's really in the pushback that you're going to get from your peers that you're going to be able to really see sort of what matters and what you need to change. So reminding you of that. I'm going to skip through a little bit just to get through to driver diagrams, just another quick refresher on this tool. Hopefully you had some time to read the article called What's Your Theory? If not, don't worry, but make time for it. It's only about a 10-minute read. I promise you it's one of the best articles ever written. It's engaging. I come back to it time and time again. I reread it all the time to remind myself how to best communicate this concept to people. Um, and hopefully you also had the time to review this driver diagram that we've been working out at Nash, just to give you guys a sense of how this looks in higher education. For those of you who maybe took it a step further and were, oops, hold on, there we go. For those of you who took a step further and maybe Googled some driver diagrams, you'll notice that again, because this is still a new concept being brought over to higher education. You may have seen a lot of diagrams from manufacturing, a lot of diagrams from healthcare. So that's also just to acknowledge, I know this is fairly new to higher education. And so if you want to spend a little bit more time digging into what this looks like, for higher ed, certainly this one is a good one to start with. Hopefully with all of your good work, we'll have some other driver diagrams to put up on the board and share with other people after this is all over and done with. So anyways, just quick refresher on those two concepts. Are there any questions or anything that lingered in your mind, anything that was confusing after the last session, or just something that you've been thinking about that you wanted to ask before we jump into using? Anybody married to a healthcare professional and went home and started talking about this with your spouse?
David, you did?
Oh, I've been talking to my wife about this since I started working on it. She's a surge tech, but yeah, I started talking about this project.
Sure.
So she does this a lot in her day to day, that continuous improvement, like, yeah.
And thank goodness, right? We don't want any surgeries going the wrong way just because we weren't thinking clearly about the problem.
Right.
For the primary drivers, well, I guess it'd be more secondary. What if one of your drivers is something you have no control over, like motivation?
Great question. Great question. So actually, when we were last all together, I had just landed in England, and I'll share a couple of these in the chat because I actually have them right here on my desktop. I was at a conference of primary care physicians, all of the primary care physicians that serve the UK, and there was a great poster session, and I thought of you all because at this poster session, these were all just improvement projects. And even though you may not be a primary care provider, you guys were in my thoughts and you were in the room, hypothetically speaking. And I said, oh, I wish they could see all of these. And I grabbed a couple for you. But that's a complicated way of saying, I think that even if you don't have, control over it, it makes a team work faster if you name a problem and you just put it up on the driver diagram, right? And you can even say that within your teamwork is like, hey, look, this other thing, I'm going to make this up, right? The financial stress that we all know, everybody who works at this college knows that we're in a crisis, right? That is going to put stress on everybody because everyone's slightly nervous about their jobs or nervous about what these cuts are going to be. And we don't have any impact on it, but let's just put it up on the board just to kind of acknowledge that that's happening. I find that really powerful because I think the more you put up like physically up on the document, the more you're letting people have brain space for like what they actually can contribute to.
Would it be okay to have concrete and existential?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think one that I see a lot, just to give you an example in healthcare, is staff turnover, because staff turnover is so high. And so I think a lot of times teams just want to acknowledge that if we get to a really great process, we also have to acknowledge that if a third of the team members that are here today aren't going to be here in a month, we will always be hampered by that. And I think it does two things. To your point, one, it just acknowledges that there are issues outside of our specific project, but it can also be a sign to leadership, right? It can be a sign that this other thing needs to be worked on, and that's not my team, that's not my focus. But hey, guys, if we're going to develop a perfect process, but every single month a third of our team is new, we're never going to get to the results that you guys are expecting of us. And so I do think it's also a really good like way to interact with leadership as you show them your projects and you keep them informed. It will percolate in their minds like, oh yeah, if we got new staff here every month, even a perfect process is going to have a really hard time. Yeah. Great questions. I cannot access that with Lily.
Really? Did it say no, like restricted access or something?
Yeah, it just wanted, yes, it needs you to request access.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so I don't want to do this for everybody. I should be able to do it. Just create a document that everyone can access, right?
Be able to.
Okay, so basically what I will do here, everybody, is I will make sure that this Google Doc is accessible to everybody as an editor. And then I'm just interested as you get into small groups that you kind of write out your drafted aim statement that then you can continue to edit. This is not a final anything, 100%, but it'll also allow us to, there we go. I need to general access this. Anyone with a link? Okay. No, anybody with editor. Okay. So I think that that should allow us to do that. It'll give us some really good examples that Juliet can see, that she can make, you know, kind of general comments on aim statements and things to do or things to think about. And if you don't have one drafted, that's okay too. But hopefully, as you're thinking about this in your small groups, maybe you want to take a stab at it. And so, and then as we go, you know, next session, maybe we can do breakout groups that are a little bit more thematic. If people have some common energy around an issue or a topic. Anyone have any questions before we go to breakout groups? Okay. All right, let me. Automatically create, how many of us are there, 26? I'll create 5 breakout rooms of about 4 or 5 people. And you'll be randomly assigned. And we'll do breakout rooms for at least 20 minutes. And I'll kind of check in, and if folks need more time, we can do that. But we'll start with 20 minutes and then see if it'd be more helpful for us to kind of come back as a large group and continue discussing. All right, I'm opening the rooms now. Thanks, everyone.
This is perfect, and I might get to some other questions. Okay, so I'm assuming that yours is that second to last one, create connections between the admissions process and the Office of Student Disability Services. Is that correct? That's you. Okay, great.
Sorry,
okay,
I muted myself.
No, you're good. You're good. Can you make that a little bit bigger, Lily? So sorry, my eyeballs are gonna fall out.
Here we go.
Okay, so yes, this is a great one to kind of go through as a group. So right now, as it currently stands, it says create connection between the admissions process and the Office of Student Disability Services to improve the process by which students navigate services on campus. The student experience will be smoother and more streamlined with fewer opportunities for getting lost in the shuffle. This will be accomplished via sharing messaging in the following formats: online, by email, and in-person meetings. These changes will be in place by summer of 2026. Who wants to take a stab at telling us what's missing in this aim statement? Now I'm putting everybody else on the spot.
How will you determine it's become smoother? Like how are you going to gauge success?
Right.
I'm not sure the success is clearly defined. We'll just summarize it that way. What we're trying to accomplish is improving.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Right,
sort of like
so
what
the
can be
issue
measured.
right
The issue right now is that I know anecdotally, not from numbers, I know anecdotally that students get lost. After they're admitted to the university and all of the hand-holding through the admissions process ends, there are really good, robust services, student services on campus. But students have to initiate that contact and access it on their own. And one of the most important points of access would be my office, because those students are going to be the most vulnerable and the most likely to be lost in the process. And so there needs to be a handoff of some kind, but I don't have a way to measure how many students got lost, or, you know what I'm saying?
I totally know what you're saying. And so so you've got a couple different problems. So here's, kind of bringing you guys back to the model for improvement, right? You're looking at a couple different problems, right? Because what your core question is, Misty, is how will I know that a change is an improvement, right? Because to your point, this is not enrollment. Let's just take enrollment, right? Enrollment this is how many people were in their seats on October 5th. And year over year, maybe it's a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit less. That's a clear measure, right? Where over time you can say, we're on the up and up, we're on the down and down. To your point, every year, the number of students requiring assistance will not be static. And you should not assume that it should always be going up, nor should you always assume that a downward trend is also acceptable. So you were 100% right in your challenge around, like, I know I'm missing a number, but I also don't find it appropriate to say we should always be looking to grow the number of students. So Misty, you 100% understood the challenge. And thank you for not falling in the hole of just being like, well, it's a number, I'll stick it in there, right? Because you want to make sure you're measuring the right thing, right? Measuring the wrong thing just gets you to more nonsense faster, right? So congratulations for not, falling into that hole. So if it's not the outcome, right? If it's not the actual, like, how many students, get connected, because that's not what you're trying to make sure always goes up. It sounds like, can you kind of go backwards in the process and think about what is the thing? Is it, and I'm making this up because I obviously don't know your process. Is it that every student is offered? Is it that every student who self-identifies as needing to at least see if they can get accommodation? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, go back in the process a little bit, because it seems to me what you're trying to do here is figure out a way that the students who either know they need an accommodation or think they need an accommodation get into that warm handoff faster. You have cut points about surely, like, who actually ends up getting assistance or not. Don't move that line, move the line of how do you identify students, right? And this came up in another breakout session that I was in, right, where the team member was talking about, like, this one person has been referred in for critical social service support, but it was a very roundabout way, right? And so maybe we're dealing with this one student today, but the actual challenge is, how do we get more people referred into a system that needs to exist? Does that kind of make sense, Misty?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that the thing I could measure would be not the students who enroll, but the number of connection points, like the opportunities that the students have, like how many times does that connection occur between the admissions process and my office? How many opportunities do the students have to see that information and get that information across multiple platforms?
Do students, and sometimes what's helpful to think about, like, what we call, what's the triggering event? So when students apply, do they self-disclose that they have a disability?
It is up to, they do not anywhere in the admissions process self-disclose that.
Okay.
It's not considered acceptable to ask.
Okay.
So what I think needs to happen is an increase of opportunities for them to meet me and see the path to my office and the path to accommodations. And some students do they do disclose this to their admissions person, but their admissions person historically doesn't necessarily take it up. other than giving them my card or something, you know what I mean? And so if
Yeah.
we can establish, that would be another driver that we could use, like then the admissions person would do, like you said, the warm handoff where they get them to me immediately.
Yep. Yep.
Another,
So I think,
another
oh, go ahead.
opportunity,
Yeah.
another opportunity would be to, if you're amenable to collecting data from students that have gone through the process and ask them, you know, where they frustrated, where they disappointed, you know, so get your measurements from them, and then you'll be able to measure improvements with future classes. And I also think when I hear the phrase fall through the cracks, you know, having directed academic accommodations on my campus, these students materialize at different rates throughout the fall term. So one of your measurements could be a time measurement, right? How quickly do we get students, you know, registered so that they're able to take advantage of their accommodations? And obviously your goal would be to minimize the delay.
That's a good one.
I
Thank
liked your thought on like measuring touch points, because if you process mapped like how students learn about accessibility services like currently, and then you work on ways to like increase that, and you could say like, you know, our current state is, you know, they get one, all email goes out or something. And then you've worked on, well, we're going to introduce it at orientation, and I'm going to do the FYE, you know, I don't know. You could show an increase in the, like you said, the opportunities that they have to learn more about the services.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to be brave enough to share their developing aim statement? Otherwise, we'll just pick from the.
I was
pick
gonna
from
be, I
the-
was gonna be brave because I need some help.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Problem that Misty is having in a different way, and this is a new, there's not a student facing area or hub for experiential learning at Moorhead. There's an archive, but unlike U of L and UK, there's just not one that's current and up to date. And so, because Moorhead doesn't have one, Craft Academy doesn't have one. And we have to just kind of search and piecemeal this together. And so I'm not sure how to face the numbers. And in my mind, I'm going back, as you asked Misty to do. You know, there's an orientation week where I do a research fair where it's mostly special projects and a little bit of academic research. And then I and I beg professors to show up. It's usually during their time where they're extremely busy the week before classes start. So I'm just kind of wondering how to quantify that.
So right now, it says establish an online space to increase equitable student access to high impact experiential learning opportunities through the creation and implementation of an experiential learning hub at these two institutions, improving readiness for college and career. So I'm reading a lot about the how you're going to do this. But if this, I think sometimes it's sort of like put yourself like, if this were to go off completely amazing, according to plan, all students get through it, all students get like, how would you know that it's been a positive change? So like, what would you actually be measuring? Is it that every student gets an experiential learning opportunity? Is that the...
Not every student will do that. Not every student's interested in being part of FTC robotics or Robot Gladiator League or, you know, studying about the Mayapan ruins. I mean, not every student wants to do that, but they have difficulty, and I see their frustration. And there's only one of me in the department. Like Misty's only one of her. There's only one of me over here because she's dealing with thousands. So I just think to myself, I'm already doing things to increase the number of students that are involved in experiential learning. So I don't know if I could say that this would be the cause of an increase in that. But they definitely would have access. But I don't know how to quantify that since it's never lived.
Yeah. So just like for a quick step back, right? Try not to think of this as a research project, right? You're not trying to establish causality. You're more trying to figure out like what are all the things that have to be put in place, right? So it sounds like one of those things is the creation of this learning hub, right? So people can find opportunities faster, but you're right, it's going to be a lot of other factors as well, right? It's not just one thing. So maybe what I would say is like, and maybe this kind of like puts you into starting to create your driver diagram, right? The creation of this hub is one of the drivers, but what are all the other drivers, like you said, you're already doing work in? And then does that help you sort of start to be clear about what your aim statement is?
No. I'm just gonna be honest, no.
Yeah.
It doesn't help me because I'm saturated, and I just maybe I need turn left rather than think about where I need to go type situation.
No,
going
that's
on.
okay. I guess my question is like, what is the future? What are you trying to accomplish with these experiential learning opportunities?
Well, the experiential learning opportunities are to help students to pick up critical skills that they need. But the hub and the creation of the hub is to make it more accessible for them, because right now, the only way they get access to this is to have multiple meetings with all of these sort of fragmented systems. They meet with me, they meet with Alexis Matthews, who's the coordinator of undergraduate research at Morehead State. They go online, they search the ScholarWorks, they go to the Celebration of Student Scholarship PDF. I mean, they do so many fragmented pieces just to find what they're looking for. And it's a research project in itself.
Right.
At least it's the literature review.
Right. So it sounds like you're trying to make sure that they can find the opportunity through this platform. Then obviously you want them to actually accomplish the opportunity, gain those skills, et cetera, et cetera.
At least be informed enough to know it's there, whether they want to say yes or no. Because right now they don't know what they don't know.
And so if all of those things were to happen, what would be the outcome? If students did have this platform, if all of those things started to happen, what would be the impact?
Well, ultimately, we would have a larger number of students that would be involved in these type of projects. But again, I'm constantly doing things to increase that, and we're increasing enrollment too. So, I mean, I know that's a percentage, but yeah.
So it sounds like you do have your aim. It sounds like your aim is to improve how many students participate in experiential learning opportunities.
Right.
That is ultimately what you're doing.
But how do I know hub is the thing that's helping it? How do I start from like a number of like is this 100% more? We had this in our breakout session. Would it be 100% more involvement in the hub or do I just go with the number of students that are involved in experiential learning?
Well, do you know today how many students are involved in experiential learning on your campus?
No, in Craft Academy.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
In Craft Academy.
Yeah, and I could get the numbers for the Morehead.
Okay, so you do know. I'm just going to make up these numbers. Today, last year, academic year 2024, it was 100 students, right? If you want to increase that, right, your goal is for next year, it's 150 students, right? That's an aim statement to increase the number of students who actually participate in experiential education opportunities at these two institutions. Then I want you to flip into your driver diagram for a second, right? It's going to be multiple different things that are going to get you there.
What question?
A lot of in your aim statements, you're supposed to answer the questions. Where was that? It was what will be improved for whom, by how much, by when, but not the how.
That's right.
And everything,
That's right.
we're stuck on the how.
Yep.
This is what we are doing. Well, that's not what the aim statement is. The aim statement is what we are doing going to improve? Why are we doing what we are doing? So
That's
our
right.
aim statement won't actually have our activity. That's in the driver statement.
That's exactly
Is
it.
this correct?
That's exactly it. And sorry, I
Because
think I cut out there for a second.
okay, because a lot of these read is in we are going to do this, but that's not what we really want right now. We want to know why we are doing what we are thinking about doing.
That's exactly right. Because Rachel, just to kind of pull on Rachel's example, Rachel, even if you put together this great form and this great platform, what if no student uses it? What if absolutely no one uses it? You're not going to do away with experiential education, right? That's not what we're going to do. We're going to do away with the platform because it's not actually moving us closer to our goal. And that's the difference with leading. It's exactly what Kasha just said. Leading with the how you're going to do it will get you only in trouble. You need to start with the what are we trying to do? And it sounds like in your case, you're trying to get more students to have access to enroll or complete or however you want to say it, experiential education.
I just modified it.
Great. Okay, but we're gonna put poor Rachel under the magnifying glass. Is
Increase
it
equitable student access?
You don't
is
understand.
it
I love that. Misty and I, we're from departments of one. We want people helping us.
I love it. I love it. Is it about increasing access?
Or use? Participation?
Should I say
Yeah.
access and use?
Nope.
I would just say
It's just use.
participation.
It's just, yeah, use, participation, completion, however you want to think about that. And here's why, right? Because if we all know, if 100 students are exposed to something, 75% will answer the survey question, yes, I want to do it. How many actually do it, right? You know it's not always going to be everyone. So back off of the like interest piece and put yourself in the outcome space of I want more students to complete experiential education projects in 2026, whatever the year framework here is, right? Then to Kasha's point, the how you're going to do all that, that's what lives on your driver diagram. It's going to be talking to students more about this. It is going to be in that online marketplace where they can see all their options, but it also is probably going to have to, you're going to have to probably work with their advisors so that their advisors are talking about this during advising appointments, talking to faculty. You see what I'm saying? Like there's going to be all of these things that are going to have to move so that you get to your outcome, but just make sure you're not confounding your outcome with your activities. Great. Anybody else want to put their aim statement out here? Okay, I just have to give Hannah White a little shout out. To be fair, I left her some comments in this, but so she's already made some edits, but look at how clean and clear this aim statement is. Retain 85% of students returning to the university after at least 2 years away within the comeback card debt forgiveness program by fall 2027. Thoughts or criticisms of this aim statement?
I just want to know how Hannah came up with that 85%.
I came up with it because that's our university goal for retention. So I stole it from the powers that be. But and that's a joke, but I do want to align with our overall strategic initiatives. So that's where that number comes from.
Okay.
The only question, and it doesn't, as long as everybody who reads this understands what definition of the word retain you are using.
Great point. Is it retain to the next semester, retain over 6 years? Like maybe let's define retain a little bit, a little bit tighter. That's a great point. I love the clarity around returning students. That means they've been away for at least 2 years. That means someone can go and pull a list who actually meets that definition. Quick clarifying question. So when you say within the comeback cards debt forgiveness program, so are you talking about just the students who enroll in this program are going to be retained at that level? Is that what you're sort of saying in that?
Yeah. So it would be like the kind of like a cohort model. So retaining 85% of the cohort.
That's great. That's great. It's given you're being very clear about who this is. And guys, look at this. She hasn't said one word about how. I don't know how she's going to do this. Maybe Hannah doesn't know how she's going to do this. That doesn't matter. The how, the activities, that does not live in the aim statement. That is for Hannah and her team to figure out and start putting on a driver diagram, right? Who's to say what that's going to look like? But all of the strategies and the activities, that doesn't live in the aim statement. Nice job. Okay, let's shoot. Do I have a little bit more time, Lily? I'm not keeping an eyeball on time here. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go about,
Okay.
10 more minutes.
What about that very last draft sentence? Identify students that withdrew from EKU in the first week before academics became a factor and follow up with them to determine the reason and create interventions to increase retention by 2%. Whose is this, first of all?
That's me. I should have put my name, Emily Jo Davis.
That's okay. You're good, Emily. How do you feel about your aim statement?
I don't know. I mean, I also missed the AIM session, so
No worries.
I'm doing my self-paced learning at home, so
No
I'm
worries.
open to feedback.
All right, let's poll the audience. Who would change what about this aim statement?
Well, the goal is to increase retention by 2%, straight up. Like that's your
Okay.
goal.
Okay. So maybe we would start by flipping the whole sentence on its head, right?
Mhm.
Increase retention by 2%. And do we have a target population in this aim statement?
Is it really retention if you're looking at them before classes start? So they would not, if they dropped in that first week or withdrew from everything in that first week, they wouldn't be counted in your enrollment for that term. So I think, want to
Decrease withdrawals.
decrease the number of students who withdraw from
Yes.
EKU before the end of the first week.
Yes. That I like.
And if you could probably get that baseline number, so you could say decrease from, or from this number to this number, or this percent to this percent, but you'd be trying to keep them instead of retain them, I think.
Nice job, Jessica. Anybody else want to go through their draft aim statement?
I haven't created mine yet
Yep.
because I feel like I am in the same boat with Dr. Rogers with like measurable data, I think.
Sure.
Um
Do you want to
like
talk through what your project is?
Sure. My goal is to increase higher education going culture within high schools. I've created a junior focus group, and counselors selected one junior from each of their schools. I know how I want to see it increase, but I don't know if it's like a measurable, like I can't put a date or anything on it. So I don't know what to do.
Okay. No.
Thinking too big.
What if you
If
survey,
it's-
like,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It sounds like it's
So
something that's not you're not measuring it today.
No.
Okay. My second question to you, and don't worry if you don't have the answer on the spot, is this something that is standard practice in the industry? Like, does it exist? Do high schools routinely survey their population to see what the college going culture is? It's okay if you don't know that answer. If yes, oh, go ahead.
So we have a survey. So we have like KY Goes to College, which is an entire campaign, and that is trackable data. But like the things that the focus group are working on, we're doing activities and they're taking them back into their schools to do these activities and create conversation around higher education, and really just get kids talking about what they want to do after high school. So I don't know how to measure that. I kind of did some surveying during our first meeting. So where the kind of questions before were kind of open-ended. So it wasn't like on a scale of blank to blank. It was like, what do you feel like your high school is doing well? What do you feel like your high school is not doing well? Where would you like to see growth, XYZ?
Okay. So 2 things I would say is, first, try and take a look around and see if there isn't an industry standard tool. Sometimes there might be one. If so, try and see if you can't sort of rapidly implement that. My gut, Mackenzie, tells me that there probably is, just because college going culture is, pretty sort of well documented and thought about. If you could get some survey baseline data, that would be fantastic. But here's the question that I'll push you on is, even if there's a college going culture, is that an outcome measure in and of itself?
I'm writing things down. As you say, I'm not ignoring you.
No, you're fine.
So Juliet, it sounds like you're saying the improving the college going culture is still the how to getting ultimately the outcome that we want is more students pursuing post-secondary education.
Yeah. Ultimately, and this goes for everything, you guys, culture fits on the driver diagram. Culture is always a driver, as you well know, but it's not an outcome, right? The outcome would actually be how many students from, I'm making this up, Mackenzie, right? But like, how many students from area high schools enroll, right, in post-secondary opportunities. That data is very much available to high schools. They can use the National Student Clearinghouse High School Tracker to see. They can look back 5 years, what is their college going rate? I would be willing to bet, I've done a lot of college access work in the past. They probably have access to how many students applied in the last couple of years. Like, those could set some baselines for you, but ultimately culture is only one of the levers that you need to pull. And I'm just going to say that bluntly, just because I want you to be very clear. You can work on that, right? That can be your project, but just know that it's not the only thing that you're going to have to move to get the enrollment numbers that you're really looking to get from local high schools. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a helpful thing to just say, right? Like, culture can only take students so far. You can have a college going culture in a high school. If that high school does not offer the PSAT during school hours, if that high school does not offer SAT waivers, if that high school does not offer college trained counselors on how to apply, like, the best of culture will not undo the structural pieces that you have to have in place. And I think, was it Anel that was working on this individual? She was thinking about this individual, lots of social challenges, potentially, maybe, I think Anel feels like this person is so deserving and ready for a college education. It's not the culture that's up against this person. It's everything else. It's that they don't have access to housing that meets their standards. It's that there is social emotional conflict at home, right? It's all of those things. And so you have to think about it in both ways. What are the structures that students need, but then also how do we complement that with culture?
Okay. That's what like the things that you just listed, like resources, exposure, time, support, access, those were like my driving factors. They're my primary drivers that I had.
Great.
So, okay.
Yeah, great. I would just then I would just sort of flip it and say, like, it's not the culture that's the outcome. It's really the, that more students enroll, frankly. And then you're going to obviously have to unpeel that onion. That means more students apply. That means more, it's obviously a really complex problem, as all of the problems you guys are facing are. I just want to say that I popped into 2 or 3 rooms here. No one is trying to solve an easy problem. And so just think about the point of the aim statement and the driver diagram is to document that complexity and make it really clear for you which piece of this are you trying to move, because it's not going to be solved by one intervention. There is no silver bullet. There is no intervention on the face of the earth that in its singularity will solve the problems that you're trying to solve. That's the point of a driver diagram. It's to put it all out there and say, okay, there are a lot of factors here. Here's the thing I'm going to pull on. Here's the thing I'm going to work on. Here's how I'm going to measure it. But I know that it's part of a more complex system.
Question.
Sure.
I have a hard time sometimes separating big goals from little goals. Okay. So in your diagram, you had your aim statement and your primary drivers and your secondary drivers. That's all great. But should that aim statement be like your ultimate goal, or should it be your achievable, attainable goal? Like there's no place in your diagram, like at the top, it would be overall, we want to increase retention by 5%. Then we have these 5 different aim statements, and each that contribute to that ultimate goal. And then each of those different aim statements have different drivers. Am I there?
You're yes and no.
Okay.
You're wrestling with it, which is the most important part, right? The aim statement really is that overarching, like big goal, because it's your outcome measures, right? So in higher education, the outcome measures, you can think about them as like your core KPIs. It's enrollment, it's retention, it's success, right? But I think yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you've got to measure success on the little steps to get there. So where do you put that information?
Yeah,
that I
that's
would
where I would
consider
go.
this a stepping stone success.
Yeah. So let's use Mackenzie's example, just because I can give you some tangibles, right? So maybe Mackenzie goes back and says, like, okay, my aim statement is to improve by 10% the college enrollment rate from the following 4 high schools: high school A, B, C, D. They're in our immediate region, whatever. Then, to your point, that's not going to happen in 1 year. That's not even going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen overnight. It might not even happen in a year. It might not happen in 5 years, right? But each of your primary drivers, so I'll give you 2 examples, right? Her primary driver 1 is going to be increase the number of applications submitted to, let's just call it all Kentucky community colleges from high school A, B, C, D. Put some goals around that, because that you can change, right? That you can see movement on in a pretty quick amount of time, right? If you want to set smaller goals for yourselves, set them at the primary driver level. So let's say we're going to increase the number of applications. We're going to increase the number of students taking the SAT, if that's something that applies. We're going to increase the number of students who attend who do college counseling with a college counselor. We're going to increase the number of students who complete the FAFSA. You can have 4 or 5 goals, but those are your primary drivers, right? And then just to go a step further, I'm just going to take FAFSA. So Mackenzie set a goal. We're going to increase FAFSA completion rate by 10% at each of the following high schools, A, B, C, D. Okay, that's her primary driver. Her secondary drivers start looking like, okay, we need to increase the number of FAFSA nights at the high school. We need to increase the number of waivers, right? Because students who get free and reduced lunch can waive the requirement, whatever, right? Like that's where she's going to come up with her strategies. Those are her change ideas. But it's a good question, Kasia. So I would say if you want to set smaller chunk, bite-sized goals, set them at the level of your primary drivers.
Primary driver. That's what I needed. I needed the picture. Thank you.
Okay, I know this is a lot, but I also, I think that this session today was incredible. I think it was so helpful for me to kind of see us really workshop specific statements. And even if you haven't yet drafted one that you put in this document, please do that in the next couple of weeks as you continue to think about it, meet with your partners, kind of refine or hopefully identify the thing that you're most interested in working on. And this shared document is something that we can use to kind of follow up and continue to provide support so that we do have really strong aim statements kind of the next phase of the process. Right?
Yes, I would like to request critical feedback from everyone.
Oh, I love it.
I would love it. Thank you.
That's a really wonderful thing to throw out there. And so please do put in, this is a shared doc. So it would be wonderful if you all got in there and asked questions, left comments, if you have a suggestion, please do, share that support with one another. I think that everybody's will be stronger at the end of the day. I think I had just maybe, oops, no, wrong deck. A couple things on what's next. So now that we might hopefully be narrowing in on the aim, the project goal, and identifying some of those primary drivers for us, I think that's where we start using the tools around student personas, student journey mapping, process mapping, our institutional processes, and even those transitional processes can really help us get a good understanding of our current state picture. Where are our biggest gaps, our biggest barriers, some of the greatest obstacles our students may face? And so that if we can understand that from the student perspective, from our institutional process perspective, then when we move into kind of really identifying the what or the how, I guess, that we want to move this needle on our aim statement, we'll have some really great, it'll be very surgical. And you'll be able to really do a test of change that is going to move the needle, and that hopefully you'll have those more ground level KPIs where you'll see if it's working very early on, and you'll see if it's making a change for you and your students very early on. So I'm really excited about our next session on November 5th. We'll really dive into journey mapping and process mapping, and then you can kind of think about how these tools may be of service to you in the work that you're looking at. And I did just want to kind of share that this is, of course, like a work in progress, but we have moved through kind of, hopefully you've got a draft of this aim statement that we'll continue to workshop with each other. And that even beyond that draft, and I know in your toolkit, you also have templates. So pull this puppy out and take a look at the aim statement template, the driver diagram template, so that you can really start, playing around with some things and some concrete ideas. Okay. I am going to I'm going to send out a survey immediately for your feedback. That kind of quick pulse check survey. Would really appreciate if you took 3 seconds, 5 seconds, however, it's very quick, 15, 30 seconds, and give us that feedback so that we can continue to improve as well. Okay. stop the share. All right, I think that that's everything. Follow-up email and post to the Impact Exchange coming hopefully by the end of this week. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Reach out if you need anything.
Bye-bye.